Welcome to Taking Healthy Back with Maria, with your host, Maria Malec, experience coach, conscience educator, and destination retreat host, presents to you countless ways to overcome an overwhelmed, overprocessed, and overmedicated lifestyle. She'll be covering everything wellness, from getting more from life than you put into it, destination retreats to healthy cooking and conscious education. So please welcome the host of Taking Healthy Back with Maria.
Welcome, wellness seekers. I'm so happy that you're back. Going to start as I do to set the stage in the area. I'm going to spray some essential oils to get our day started. I'm excited about absolutely every show that we do. And at Taking Healthy Back with Maria, you're going to be introduced to a whole bunch of healing modalities, tips, tools, things that you can do to sustain your life naturally, how to overcome sickness, overcome your overprocessed, overmedicated, and overstressed life. And I'm going to be bringing a lot of interesting people with amazing minds who are here in a common interest to help humanity and to help the world heal. And today, our guest is really no exception. We have Shahnaz Soni. She is a rocket scientist, you guys, for real. A quantum being, a spiritual alchemist, and a quantum coach. What does all that mean? We're going to find out today. If you remember, a couple weeks ago, we had on a person talking about scalar light. Shahnaz is very familiar with all of that, and maybe we'll touch upon that too today. But without further ado, I'd love to introduce Shahnaz Soni. Welcome, Shahnaz.
Hi, Maria. Thank you for this beautiful introduction. And I'm so grateful to be part of this mission that you are on to help humanity bringing healthy back, bringing themselves back to them.
Yes, yes. And we are going to talk extensively about your book called The Quantum Being. Wow, we could probably be on here for 4 hours, but we only have an hour today. So let's dive in. It's really hard to know where to start. And why don't we just start by you introducing yourself and just a snippet of how does a young girl growing up in Pakistan decides she wants to be a rocket scientist?
And that is exactly what I teach: is how can one be anything, and it's by being conscious, right? By being aware that there is more to life than meets the eye, by being curious enough to go on that Wizard of the Oz journey, right? To figure out who are you, because in spite of the constraint, in spite of the patriarchal culture I was raised in spite of lots of no, and in spite of every day somebody killing your soul, you can still actually wake up, revive yourself, and say, you know what, I'm on this quest and I'm going to continue to be on the quest and keep on walking wherever I can find a small, tiny pixel of light. And that's pretty much what I did all my life growing up. I kept doing it. And the more I did it, the better I became. And in that quest, I never gave up on myself, which is the main reason I'm here speaking to you right now.
So you're a wonder seeker. That's a new term that I'm adopting into my vocabulary, is living life in wonder. So how did that bring you to NASA?
So it brought me to NASA. I mean, it had many, many steps, but the first step was that I always wanted to speak English. That was one of my biggest prayer growing up as a very good Muslim girl. Every day, 5 times a day, I would pray. And when my head would touch the ground, I would say that I wish I can speak English one day. And it wasn't easy to speak English, partly because I went to Urdu schools, and partly because my parents did not really believe in education because they believe that I'm going to have the same fate that most of the girls do, right? Which you pretty much get married, you spend most of your time in the house, and you don't really get to do what you really want to do outside of the house. So that was the mindset I was kind of raised in. However, I wanted to speak English one day. I kept praying, and basically, I end up getting a proposal, arranged marriage proposal, where the man is coming from America. So technically, that there isn't my opportunity to speak English, if you think about it,
Oh, right.
right? However, I didn't think that way at the time. Of course, I was kind of more like aware that I'm marrying off to this person, and that's my duty to be married off. So after 1 hour interview, I got married to him, and when I came to America, I had to speak English. There was just no other way to survive there. And that opened the door for me to go to college. And then that opened the door for me to pursue my engineering. And then that opened the door for me to find the job in the state of the art technology, because I always have worked on projects that have been very innovative. So I
Hmm.
started working on the satellite phone, then International Space Station, then Future Combat System, then ground-based mid-course defense. Then I worked on some other flight displays, and I space launch system, and all of those journey I took, and then I ended up at NASA working on Falcon 9 rocket for SpaceX, and then now working on human landing system.
Were you readily accepted? I don't want to talk too much about this, but it is interesting to me because your mind is so brilliant. And were you received well in NASA?
Yes, I definitely love NASA environment. It's very family oriented. It's more family oriented than other aerospace company I've been, and there's definitely there's definitely a certain um, role you have to play if you're a contractor versus you're a civil servant. So there is that. There's a little bit of that politics, which is always there in any corporation, and I see that there as well. However, as far as I'm concerned, I'm extremely good in not necessarily doing what I'm told. I do what I think I should do. And the
Ooh.
interesting thing is that whenever I do what I should do, they end up liking me even more. So it's not like that, like they see the disobedience, but they truly don't, because they realize the potential. Because, you have, we all have more potential than sometimes we are being treated for. So why not show up the way you think you should, in spite of what other people think that you shouldn't?
I love that. So what I'm going to do is I've marked up some pages in your book. Um, before I get into that, maybe you can explain what a quantum being is. I myself, in social media and the news, I'm hearing more about quantum stuff. I'm not really sure everybody understands what that means. So maybe we can start there.
Sure. So, we are human beings, right? So that we all agree on that. I just replaced the word human with quantum, partly
Hmm.
because of understanding the fact that we are a quanta of light, and at the subatomic level, we are continuously vibrating. So when you understand that aspect, which is why when we tap into that quantum being existence, then we recognize that everything that is continuously changing around us is meant to change, and we are supposed to move with the change. So if you can learn how to move with the change as a quantum being, then
Hmm.
you create that quantum dance, which means that the power we seek is the power within, because you hone the power that you have within you to show up the best way in the world. And that's how you exude your quantum beingness, that's how you exude your light, and that's how you actually maximize your potential and your existence here on earth.
Beautiful. If, as a quantum coach, how would you talk to a person who just wants to be the same, who is resistant to this ever change that's going on all the time?
Well, first of all, when people do make any kind of appointment with me, the very fact that they're actually willing to interact with someone like me
Hmm.
means that they are ready for a huge change in their lives, really.
Okay.
So to me, like when people come to me, and especially my coaching sessions are they cost, right? So now you have made a commitment to invest time, invest money, and talk to someone like me, and that already means that you are ready for change.
Okay.
So that's it.
Beautiful. Otherwise, why would they have made an appointment with you?
No, because it takes all of those steps, right? You take all these quantum steps. And the thing is that the other thing about human being is that when they come in contact with any kind of information, knowledge, wisdom, coaching, they interact, right? And it could be that whatever they can handle is going to happen. So it could be that, I would expect them to go from A to D, and they may end up going from A to B, you see? But
Right.
at the end of the day, they are not going to be standing where they are, no matter what.
And you're meeting them where they're at, is what it sounds like to me.
Exactly.
Okay. So in your book, very close to the beginning, you said, I had signs everywhere saying, Shahnaz, your soul will die if you don't do something. Signs are all around us to signal alignment or misalignment with our soul's path. This spoke to me. I didn't just underline it. I started, I wrote next to it, this is me. I'm the same way. I feel like I always have, like I have to be doing something, and literally towards my soul's path. So when I read this, I knew that the rest of the book, I was going to enjoy the rest of the book because I felt like you were speaking directly to me.
Yes, thank you so much for that. And that has been my intent, because that direct interaction that we have with each other and with ourselves is where we can truly be present and truly be aware. So the thing is that, when you are, whatever you feel, right, in your heart is very personal. There's no way, Maria, I can tell what you're feeling right now. Can I? Right? You can easily hide it. You can smile. You can do so many ways to deceive me. And depending on my capability of understanding how I see you, I'm going to buy into it. So, what I'm saying is that when we are going through life where we are truly crying inside out all the time, especially, those are the times we know that we have to make major changes. There is just no way. Because, like you can, like if you don't look good, you can put makeup on, or you can put a clothing on, or you can change your hairstyle. There are many ways you can fix that. But when you don't feel good, that's a whole different ballgame. Because when you don't feel good means now you have to make a change at the level that's going to require a lot of discomfort. And because of that, we're going to avoid it, right? Because of our fear of unknown. So that, to me, is when what happens is that because you're not willing to do it because you're scared, right? Now what's happening, you're still living in the reality that you are not happy with. You're going to get thrown into situation where things are going to go from bad to worse. It has happened to me, at least. And that, to me, is a sign by itself that something is not right. It's almost like, right? Because it gets louder and louder and louder. And then it's up to you what you're going to do about it. And to me, if you don't do anything about it, then you're not representing yourself. Then you are not the quantum being you should be.
Yeah, I'm always saying to people that I just lost my thought. I'll come back to it. Something you said that I was going to comment on. Forgive me there. You
That's
talk
okay.
about in your book about you followed a lawyer's advice. Being resilient is the key to recovering quickly from difficulties and toughness. So what kept you going? It was your belief that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And this too spoke to me. And another thing about your book that it does is it's not a book that you sit down and you read cover to cover. It's a book that you digest, that it activates self-reflection. Why am I resonating with this? Because when I was raising my children, I raised my children to be resilient and to quickly make not have their feelings, not turn their feelings off, but working through them. And That was actually construed by a couple of my children as I wasn't nurturing enough, and I wasn't, I maybe didn't give them all the care that they needed. What can you say about that? Because I think, especially today where there's a lot of oversensitivity, how do you help people be resilient but also soft and caring? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I think it all boils down to an intention, right? So as a mother, if you're giving them tough love, you know what you're doing because, as just like as a teacher, if you have to teach someone, it depends on what you're teaching them. If I have to teach someone life, then you can't tell them in a black and white way that this is what life is because they're never going to understand that. Like nobody can be in your shoe to understand what you've gone through, which is why we have to live in this Hunger Games scenario for the most part to become this incredible diamond that we are, right? That's why my name of the company is Ashes to Sona, which actually pretty much means about the transformation from ashes to gold. Sona is an Urdu word in English,
Okay.
and that's my last name too because it means gold. So the whole point is that it's the transformation requires a certain step, and based on your role, if you're a mother and you are doing your role the best way you think is right, then you are more attached to the outcome than how it appears. Because to
Mm.
me, when you love someone, you let them go, right? It's the same thing because you love them so much that you really let them go.
Shahnaz, we got to cut for a break in a minute, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes to hear more from Shahnaz Soni. Thank you.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Shahnaz Soni on how being a quantum being can help you achieve your dreams. Shahnaz, I'm going to touch upon a few more things in your book. You talk about going from victim to victor, when sometimes you don't realize the weight of something until what you're carrying has been released. When the pain of staying in an unfortunate situation gets unbearable, then the risk of unfamiliarity and exploring unknown territory doesn't look so bad. So that really addresses that. That's when a person knows that they're ready for change, when their desire to change is greater than their desire to stay the same. Make sense?
Exactly. 100%.
You talk about a reality conversion tool. you say we all have the power we need to save ourselves. Can you address that?
Right, because when you ask, when you have a problem, you have a solution. Because it's all embedded in you. So in the reality conversion tool, I basically share the formula and the equation, I would say, as an engineer, to like when you know that your current reality is not serving you well, then there is a method, right, to take a step to make
Right.
changes to your current reality. And the reason that you have the power to make that change is because who else is going to do that for you?
Right.
It's it. That's it. Because you are here. If we all just stay where we are at all times, we live in a one house, we live with the same person, we eat the same food. We can live like that, and we can be done with our lives too. I mean, that's one way of living. But the very fact that we have so much potential, and if you don't do what you're capable of doing, it's almost like you have you have all these features that are not being turned on because you never even gave it
Right.
an opportunity to.
You never knew they existed. And I know you had marital issues with your relationship because you weren't on the same wavelength or the same vibration, if you will. And I mean, it's not just in marriages, it's in all relationships. And like you, I'm always searching for a solution. I'm always, and like our bodies are always searching for homeostasis, for harmony in our environments, and how much our environments affect us and then affect our relationships. So I can't believe how much I identified with you. Different situation, but same kind of concept. You said our soul growth occurs when we are in pain, physical or emotional pain. Pain hurts, pain gets our attention. Pain teaches us a lesson we haven't learned yet. And I tell people all the time, when you turn off the bad, you turn off the good. The pain is there to teach us something. So, how did you harness the pain for good in your own life? And how can other people do that?
And I wanted to say, when you said you turn off the bad, you turn off the good, it's like a chemotherapy. So you're right.
Antibiotics,
Exactly.
right?
So you're right. So yeah. So how did I transform my pain into my progress? Is by really going deep in it, like really feeling the suffering, like really feeling it and really accepting it, and even screaming and praying really hard with God. There are times when I got really sad and hurtful. I would basically talk to God, and I was like a little bit mad, right? So I would talk in a very kind of loud voice, but I would do it when I was completely alone, so nobody can judge me, of course. And plus, I wanted to be by myself, right? I wanted to be myself fully.
Right.
It's almost like if you want to scream, you're not going to have lots of people around you. You're going to say, I want to scream so that I can scream really deep. I can scream really hard because I don't want to be worried about how it's going to look. Right. So basically the point is that internally I was already feeling it, but then I would give myself a space to feel it in a way where I would let it out. So that helps because you can let the volcano erupt, and then you have no control over it because you let it go that far. So there's a reactive aspect of things and there's a proactive aspect of things. The proactive, at least I didn't know I was doing it, but I was being proactive by truly processing it on my own way. Even if I feel extremely helpless, I was at least acknowledging that.
Did you feel like you needed other people to acknowledge your pain
Oh,
or
100%.
commiserate with you, or anything like that?
Oh, 100%, because we all need someone to believe in us. Even if one person believes in us, then that is love, right? That's why we actually call that love. The reason I did that with all my aunts, I did that with all my friends. I did that with all my neighbors, even, because I'm very extrovert. So I make friends everywhere I go. So wherever I have friends when I go from one place to another, like even when I was going to school, I would have to change 2 buses. And in every bus, I would have a friend, it was hilarious. And then I go to school, I have a friend. Then I walk from school to home, I have a friend. But they were all different people, but it was always someone showing up for me. So the point of the story is I talked to everybody I would run into because I had no problem sharing all my problems. However, I also learned that the people that I was consulting with, they were not exactly doing anything about their own problems.
Right.
So the fact that they were not giving me a solution that really helped me, it took me a while to recognize how are they going to help me when they're not even helping themselves.
Wow. That 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 makes a lot of sense. Do you think that as quantum beings that we can live in harmony with people who are diametrically opposite of us? Being a quantum being, should we be able to manage all that? Should we remove ourselves from certain people's presence? A marriage, even a mother-child relationship.
Right. So the good thing about the quantum being is that when you actually start embodying it, you're not going to have to make decision from external to internal. You're going to make decision from internal to external. So it's almost like, I mean, we can take it for example that, I know exactly where I'm going, at least to some extent. And of course, I'm willing to change and course correct, because I'm also changing at all times. So it's kind of like I'm not attached to that, but I'm attached to doing the quantum dance with the universe, right? I have a destination and I have a journey, and journey is intertwined with the destination. So when you already have that, or at least you have created that for yourself, which is what everybody needs to do on this earth, then what happens is that people who are going with you in that quantum dance or doing that dance with you, they're going to be there standing with you because they want to, because you're complementing each other. So all of
Right.
these things, that who stays with you and who doesn't, or whom should you include and whom you shouldn't, becomes more like a consequences of the cause.
Can you explain that?
Right. So it's almost like you are going where your heart desires, or your mind desires, or you want to go. And as you become more aware of that, then the people who would want to be with you will be there. And the people who cannot
Go.
handle what you're doing will not be there. So there's no attachment to it, because to each to their own. Everybody gets to decide where they want to go and whom they want to go with.
So I'm thinking for myself with the dynamic of different people, and why do some people irritate me? Like their presence. Does that mean we're not moving on the same path together? What would cause that disturbance between me and another person? Is it because we're not vibrating at the same rate or in the same path, like you said?
Yeah, so when someone triggers you, then the question to ask, because that's where the soul growth is. If somebody's triggering you, then you have to say that why is that triggered? Why does it trigger me so much? Because technically it's good that you are surrounded by triggers, because that's where the soul growth is. But then
Okay.
you have to process that soul growth. And there are many ways to do that, which is what I do in quantum coaching, right? So I help people get to the root cause of the trigger, because like, and if you want, we can even do a live example here. You can give me an example and I'll tell you how I coach, so you will get the idea. But there's a way to kind of almost like you're unfurling the lotus flower and you're seeing the seed of life.
Okay. I love the way you think. Yeah. Um, okay. So the next thing out of your book, that for me, that's a lot of stuff that I need to digest to see how where I need work in that area with certain people. does it mean that you separate yourself from the people or only sparingly spend time with them? Because sometimes when I get triggered by whomever it is, it disrupts my peace, and I'm usually endeavoring to have peace of mind, because peace of mind is related to our wellness. Am I overthinking it? I feel like I'm very aware of my space in the space of others. Does that make sense?
And you should be, because that's the right way to live. You have to, because that's the only responsibility you have, is to be self-aware,
Okay.
right? And you want to make sure you really know, and it's good for you to know that who triggers you wrong, who makes you feel good, what you like, what you don't like. All of those helps you, because it gives you more information about how you're going to move into your next step, right? So yeah, so I think what you're doing is 100% right. Is now the question is that how do you integrate all these things that is coming to you? And there are many ways to go to the mountain, right? Of course, I have my method that I have learned, which I'm more than happy to share with the world if they're interested in it, right? Similarly, if you read my chapter 6, you get to understand that how every single interaction is a mirror to you. Every single
Oh,
interaction is reflecting back to you the part of you that you haven't addressed yet.
ooh, good one. And we have another commercial break, and maybe you could touch upon that when we get back. This is so fascinating. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shahnaz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant. I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shahnaz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shahnaz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shahnaz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back. We are talking with Shahnaz Soni about how being a quantum being can help you achieve your dreams. Shahnaz, I kind of feel like this is an indirect coaching session, because what you're saying is making so much sense in my own personal development and relationship to others and my environment. So thank you so much I'm actually comforted to hear what you're saying, because a lot of times I feel like an outcast, like I don't fit in, that the more I go down this quantum trail, the more I want to know, because I feel with every turn, something is being revealed to me. And your book when we spoke about it, when we met, you basically said your book is like a manual on how to be a quantum being and live in this world. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, exactly. Because this is my recipe on how to live this life, because I have implemented it and it has worked for me to the extent where I feel that from the matrix standpoint, I have, navigated life pretty well, considering all my inputs, right? What I was given and what I have created. And now I'm going into a whole different vistas because I have already, like, it's almost like now what's next, right? So yeah, I believe that I put my heart and soul into this book. I shared everything that I paid thousands and thousands of dollars by going to mystery schools, right?
Right.
And I want, like, a lot of people are coming to me after reading this book that they want me to open up a school called the Quantum Being, and they want to get certification of the Quantum Being. So I'm actually creating a 12-week course for this. Yeah, perfect.
That
So yeah,
that sounds
my
like
goal is,
something I'm attracting towards me, because I really believe that we all attract each other at the time when we need to.
oh,
And I
100%.
also believe that we attract ourselves to people at one time, but we're not meant to do anything, let's say, for maybe 5 years or 10 years. We had to make that initial connection. Does that sound accurate? Do you
Oh,
believe
100%.
that too?
Yeah, every connection that you make, especially when you make any kind of interaction that imprints you, right? Even if it was lasted for 1 minute or lasted for one day, it doesn't really matter. The length does not matter. It's the impression that it creates. And then when you come back to that again, when you are ready or when it aligns, when it converges, I call it quantum convergence, then you take it to the next level of fractal holographic reality.
I love it. I love it. In your book, you say intuition precedes logic. Intuition requires faith to take the next step without understanding the full picture of the outcome. And that fits right into a class that I teach about future journaling and how we can maybe address being a quantum being to achieve your dreams and living as if the final outcome is already here.
Mm-hmm.
How does that?
Yeah, because time does not exist, right? So time does not exist in all dimensions. It only exists in this physical dimension. So future, to meet the future, it's interesting because when I do light body activation, which I'm teaching that course this Sunday, it's all about embodying what you want to be. It's embodying what you want to be. So you are not just imagining what you want, you're embodying what you want. So that leap of faith, which is what requires intuition more than logic, helps you jump into the reality of your choosing.
And if you want to embody who you are, you need to know who you are. You mentioned about activation of light body. A lot of times when in different circles, when those kind of words are spoken, it's often looked upon almost like voodoo or witchcraft. Why are people giving so much energy to the darkness and not to the light? Because we can't have darkness if there's light.
And light actually is the subset of darkness.
Oh,
Light
okay.
comes from darkness. Yeah, darkness is like encompasses all, and then light comes from that. And if you really look at the electromagnetic spectrum, right, we only see a very limited aspect of light. So from our perspective, everything is dark. But the perspective is different depending on who's looking at it.
Wow. That has a whole new meaning to me now. So what is light body activation? What does that entail?
So light body activation. So the first step is that you have to recognize the fact that you are light. You exude light. You know, we in our cell, in every single cell of our body, we actually have this small portion that does carry a light. It was actually proven by Japanese in 2009 July. They performed the experiment with the camera that can help them see what the body looks like based on, based on that camera, to see that do we have a light within our body or not. So they basically proved it.
Carillion
Recently,
photography? Carillion
no, no, no.
photography?
No, that is not
Something.
Korean photography. And I mentioned that in my book, the whole detail on that experiment. So you can look it up. No, it's not the same. Korean photography is more looking at your auric field. This one is more
Okay.
looking at your physical body and seeing that you have light within your body. So I'm
Okay.
talking about the light inside your body. We
Okay.
definitely have a light outside of our body, the auric field, but we also have a light inside our body. So we are made of light. You can say that. And so that is the fundamental principle for you to understand the light body activation. Also, the scientists proved last year that the light is trapped matter. So when you understand these things, you converge all of these things. And then I just finished my hypnosis training under Dolores Cannon. So I understand how we can heal our body because we are made of light. So I encompass my hypnosis training. I have also taken training from Mystery School to do mass group meditation. So I actually do it's a meditation that I do in the light body activation, but it is two parts. It's a theory and the practical. So theory is where I explain that why we can truly, with our words, with the quantum dance, with the sun and earth, can create the gamma synchrony, can create that bliss feeling, which is pretty much, someone can say it looks like grounding, and it is. It just encompasses more than grounding because I have tailored this and I do this every day for others to do this if they want to. Of course, I'm not, this is my methodology that I'm sharing because I believe
Right.
that it has done a lot of good to me. And the idea with the light body activation is that you are basically creating a gamma synchrony. You are basically becoming one with everything. And at that point, while you are creating that 0 point energy, that's when you reprogram your cell to do what you want it to do. That's when you reprogram your mind to embody what you want it to do. So when you create that imprint, you have now created this memory that you can tap into anytime you want and reinforce it and merge with it and be with it anytime you want after that.
I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude and joy that we possess all that, and how I feel that mainstream everything has been taking us into separation instead of coherence. And it's so fascinating to think that our cells have light. And I know that us exposing ourselves to the sun, is that like recharging our light battery? So to
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I actually say, is that just like you recharge your cell phone, you recharge your cell, your human cell, through sunlight and earth, and through the acknowledgement of sound and music and the power that you have within you, right? Because the quantum being is the power you seek, is the power within, is the light within. It's something that no one can take away from you ever.
this is so exciting just because excuse me, my desire to sing and dance has increased. Everything that we're talking about is a confirmation of the things that I'm starting to experience. And why I believe this podcast is so important is because I'm 59, and it's only been in the last year or so that I started living like this. And I want to open this knowledge up to younger people so that they can start earlier than I did. And I believe with that and the awareness and the practice of all these things, how that's actually going to bring us all together into the source of pure, like tapping in, not just to the light, but to the pure love that the light comes from.
Exactly.
That's how I look at it. And lastly, the last thing I want to, one of the many, talk from your book. You have beingness is an art where we truly birth our future. The name human being, we're called human beings for a reason. The name speaks for itself and suggests being in a state of being, navigating life aware at all times of our existence. There's so many beautiful quotes. I actually took notes while I was reading the book because I wanted to remember these things. And your book alone is a reminder and an awareness of our existence, and why it's something, like you said, it's a manual that needs to be read and reminded over and over again. Thank you so much for writing this book. I thank you for answering the call to write this book because we really need it today. How does a day in the life look? We'll get to that when we get back because we have one more commercial break. And I'd like to know a day in the life of Shahnaz Soni being a quantum being and how other people can emulate that or duplicate that for themselves in their own life and in their own existence. Stay tuned, you guys. Come back. This is a fascinating conversation that we're having. Appreciate you being here.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to the show on how does being a quantum being help you achieve your dreams. Soni, or Shahnaz, sorry. I love both your names. I love saying them. They're so melodic.
Yeah.
What is a day in the life of a quantum being as you know it today, after all this work that you have done and this wonderful literary work that you've done?
So I'll tell you that before I embody, because once I wrote the book in 2022, I have been embodying the book. It's almost like I had to go through my own evolution, right? So first I had to write it and then I had to live it. And I went through a lot of soul journey even after publishing the book because of that, because I had to embody it. So before I was kind of living like a quantum being, my life was more like that. I had everything in a box to make sense out of it, right? Like, as a mother, I have my time with my son, as a engineer, I work and I have time allocated for that. As a spiritual alchemist and wanting to write this book, I have a passion time that I created around evenings and weekends. Like I had all these things in a box where everything had its place, had its schedule. I knew when to show up for what, and it was my way to make sense out of it and to create that. When I After publishing the book, because I started getting all these podcasts, I started getting more excitement. Recently, when I had the podcast with Alex Ferrari, I mean, it opened the floodgate open. So all of that showed me how to do dance differently, right? So basically, I actually am learning and working. I'm a work in progress, like we all are, right? So now it's very interesting what's happening. So I'll give an example of how my life is changing, where things are merging. Like my NASA work is merging with my passion. My passion is also merging with my spending time with my boys. My like and the examples are something that I'm going to give you that will blow your mind away. So this is what happens in 2022 when I was writing my book. Elizabeth April, who's also a huge podcaster, and I really like her, she offered a workshop on quantum human right when I'm already writing a 300-page book on quantum being. So, of course, I was very curious. So I attended her workshop. And then after attending the workshop, I sent her an email saying, I'm writing a book on a subject that you did the workshop, and I liked your workshop, but I would love to talk to you if you want to expand your horizon on this subject. And right away, she responded back and she said, let's meet. So we ended up talking, and she said initially she's not going to publish the interview. She did. It completely went like all over the world. The girl in Slovenia, she was just driving in her car. She listens to my podcast. She sends me a message on LinkedIn saying, I like to connect with you. I respond back to her. So you see how now my work and my passion is merging, because LinkedIn is purely my rocket scientist, role that I play, right? So she comes there through a different LinkedIn channel, and I say, you know what, this is interesting. Let's expand the LinkedIn to embrace. So I actually start putting some of the posts about my book on the LinkedIn. But then she introduces me to another person who basically runs Octopus Movement for all nonlinear thinker. So he and I became friends. His name is Perry, right? 2 days ago, he sends me an email because NASA wants to work with him. So he sends me an email where he says that, Shahnaz, I got this email from NASA. Can you please give me your feedback? Because he knows I work for NASA, right? Right away, the person that sent him an email, of course, I go look up because, I'm the NASA database.
Sure.
And right there, I find her, and I can read her credential. I can do everything. So I respond back to him and I say, she's legit, go for it, right? Then, of course, because he introduced me to this girl and she works for NASA. So I started texting her. Right away, she responds and she says, I want to talk to you as soon as possible. So right before this thing that you and I did at 10 o'clock, she and I had a meeting on the NASA channel talking about Octopus Movement, which is what Perry does, which is what I found through Anya, and Anya I found through my book. You see how everything starts meeting and converging together. So that's how I live my day now. Like I have so much fun. Like I have my work that I have to do, but I always do more than that. And then I show up in the playground like this. And then even in this podcast, the quote that you read from my book, which says beingness is the art where you birth your future. That's exactly what I'm doing with light body activation.
So to simplify it even more, when a person gets pregnant, they start seeing pregnant people. When you buy a red car, you start seeing red cars because your awareness is now in tune.
100%.
I like to tell people, we're always broadcasting and receiving information from our environment, whether we know it or not. As we're driving a car, we're broadcasting, how, when there's accidents and things happening, if someone cuts you off, we're broadcasting to each other. So even the other cars on the road are affecting us, and maybe our own driving. So that's really amazing. I saw another one of your podcasts where you said that things just started opening up, and now people are just contacting you like crazy, because I believe this is the time that your book needs to be out into the world, and everybody should read it. If not for their own personal development, but your book alone is interesting. It's engaging. At the end of every chapter, you have a QR code where you have a personal message, or you're expounding upon that chapter even more. You have affirmations, you have what you call thought experiments. So this is an interactive book. It's a manual, it's a resource, it's something that you're going to come back to time and time again. Pardon me. You know what? We are almost at the end of our time, Shahnaz, and we barely scratched the surface. People can reach you at your website, shahnazsoni.com. Very simple. On anything, YouTube, wherever, I'll put a link for the book, her website. Shahnaz, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rushing off, but I really got swept away with us talking, and your beautiful spirit and what you want to spread to the world. So thank you so much. Next week, I want to let you all know that we're going to be talking with Laura Oswald on somatic therapy and how to use your breath to stabilize your breathing, your anxiety, and to make you feel good. Thank you again, Shahnaz. I didn't even give you a chance to say goodbye. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity.
I can't wait to see what happens with your book and all the wonderful things that you're doing in a common endeavor to help humanity is basically what we're doing. Thanks so much, you guys. Peace until next time. See you next week.
This has been Taking Healthy Back with your host, Maria. Tune in each week as Maria will empower you to put your wellness in your control. Right here, Fridays, noon Eastern, on the Bold Brave TV network.